Hey, what's going on, everyone? Lauren Sisler here with AL.com, hanging out with Matt Scalisi. And that's a big woo! Maybe a sigh of relief for Alabama fans after that first half. But, man, Alabama came back, laid the hammer down. Alabama defeating Iona, final score 68-55 in round one of the NCAA Tournament. Big win for the Crimson Tide. A 2-15 matchup with Alabama and Iona. Obviously, a Rick Pitino coach team, always a well-coached team. We saw that throughout much of the game, obviously in the first half, especially from the Iona team, only down by 1 point at the half. Matt, just your initial thoughts on this game, how things played out.
Well, look, it definitely was not an easy one for Alabama, and I think there were quite a few moments, even in the second half, where folks were probably clinching up a little bit, saying, "Are we gonna be the story now?" We all saw it yesterday with Ohio State, and look, everybody has fun watching when it's not your team that's getting upset in the tournament, but not so much fun when it's on you. And I think Alabama ultimately, I think what happened was they survived a day where one of the things they do best just wasn't working for them. The 3-point shots were not falling, particularly from John Petty, who's a guy they rely on a lot.
No
and
doubt.
they had to find other ways to score and to win this game. And ultimately, I think Alabama was just the deeper team. And they were very good defensively today, and it was enough to get them the win. But they're going to have to play better than that if they want to go deeper in the tournament.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head there, especially from three, 5 of 16, shooting only 31.3% from 3-point range. That's always been a strong suit for them. They've obviously defended the three really well, but of course, looking at the stats here, Iona was only 22% from three, which was kind of expected. They're usually an inside team, great from the free throw line. They were 80% from the free throw line. Alabama was 56% from the free throw line. So certainly a lot of things to clean up. We saw Nate Oates on the sidelines. They're quite fired up many a times, very animated and certainly, kind of getting into things. But I think one thing kind of looking at this Alabama team and we knew going into it, Iona was going to be the overmatched team. We had a pretty good feeling that Alabama was going to come out and win this one pretty big. And obviously they pulled away, but the score at half, pretty not indicative of that whatsoever. And to your point, I think Alabama is a team that could make a pretty deep run into the tournament. But I think they've got to play a lot better than this, especially because they play the winner of the next game up, which is UConn and Maryland in that bracket. So either one of those teams is certainly going to be a tough opponent for them and not an easy win whatsoever. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they grind things out. Herb Jones doing what he does best. He led the team with 20 points. And then Alabama coming off the bench had 23 points, which is pretty impressive there. But just your overall thoughts, too, on, where this team is. When you kind of see sort of the roller coaster that they kind of hit this season, they did hit a little bit of a lull, but then they really hit their peak, playing their best basketball. Again, I don't think this was their best game, but just, your overall thoughts and how this plays into the remainder of this tournament.
Well, I think if you want to put a positive spin on this, because I'm sure it was very frustrating for a lot of fans watching it, because you're in a tight game until pretty late with a team that you're favored to beat by a lot. I think if you want to look at it from a positive standpoint, this is sort of evidence of how good Alabama is and how versatile they are as a team and why they got to the point that they're at right now. They obviously had a really bad day shooting. They shot 47% from the field total, 31% from 3-point range, and only 56% from the free throw line. Those are bad numbers for this Alabama team. They're usually much, much better than that, but that's going to happen sometimes. I think if you look at other areas of the game, they were able to dominate Iona. They dominated them on the glass. They had 42 rebounds compared to Iona's 26. They were overall, you hold your opponent to 55 points. Alabama's going to win most games where they can do that. So they played a dominant game defensively. They out-rebounded Iona. It really wasn't – even though the score was close until very late, there were a lot of areas where Alabama was much better than Iona. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case against the better teams they wind up playing in the tournament. I do feel pretty confident saying I don't think Alabama's going to shoot this poorly most of the time. Based on what we've seen from the rest of the season, you can probably count on this being the worst offensive game that Alabama's going to have. It can't get much worse than this for them. And they were still able to win and won by a pretty comfortable margin in the end, which actually Charles Barkley, for anybody who was watching the broadcast, Charles Barkley at halftime pretty much was giving everybody there a hard time, saying, look, y'all don't know what you're talking about. Alabama's having a bad time shooting the ball. It's not because Alabama's bad. It's because sometimes that happens, but they're too good in too many other areas to be able for Iona to pull this off. And I think Charles clearly knew what he was talking about. He said he thought they'd wind up winning by 14, 15 points.
Yeah, and of course, for Alabama fans out there, go look it up on Twitter. He definitely gave the Alabama fans something they've always loved hearing, a good old Roll Tide, right?
A rare one out of Charles Barkley. But yeah, I mean, look, I think this is probably the least fun you could have watching this Alabama basketball team, but they still managed to win pretty comfortably. And they did end up doing some pretty fun stuff down the stretch once they kind of finally found a comfort level. And when they start running like they do, like they did late when they went on the big 9-0 run against Iona, that's a pretty fun team to watch. And Herb Jones was a big part of that. Mm-hmm. I think if you look at what they're getting out of Quinterly right now, he really didn't play all that much today, and was still pretty incredible when he was out there. And I don't know if that's just Nate Oates kind of pacing him, not wanting to overdo it with him early. But I think some key players are playing really well. John Petty had a really bad day, and like I said, I'd be surprised if we see that level of play out of Petty again.
Yeah, and if there's a game that they're going to do it, it's certainly this one, kind of the one to kick off the rust, so to speak. I know there hasn't been much to kick off considering they just went straight from Nashville to Indiana pretty quickly. But I definitely agree with you there. And Kenneth Compton there on the comments said, "Gotta love it when the defense plays like this." Iona came to play. Patino had a great defensive game plan, and I agree with him on that. Got to give the Gales due credit. Most certainly, I think they definitely gave Alabama a run for their money. And again, this was a game that everyone pretty much figured Alabama was going to come out and win handily. I think that they definitely exposed themselves in some areas, didn't have the best performance, but I think that this Alabama team, being on this big stage, having this opportunity, I think that this is a team that's going to rise to the occasion, that will continue to, thrive, obviously playing their best ball, but defensively, showing some improvement. Then, of course, getting those shots to fall, especially around the perimeter, will be key for them. So again, Alabama winning this one 68-55. Nate Oates now 41-21, his record as a head coach. And I saw a tweet. I was kind of digging around on Twitter there towards the end of the game, and I found a tweet from someone. Let me see if I can pull it up. I really like this tweet. This guy said, "Missing Nate Oates at Buffalo, comparing this to the 2018-2019 season. A great time to be a Buffalo fan, right?" So I think that those on the outside kind of looking in certainly know Nate Oates. Buffalo fans that were there for that stretch of time.
Yeah, and it's a good point, because he's got experience coaching in the NCAA tournament, not on a deep run, obviously, but
right.
He's been on this stage before. This is not something he's necessarily having to figure out his way through as he goes. He's got some strategy in mind for not just winning one game at a time, but making a deep run in the tournament, and we'll see how that goes. It's definitely new territory for Alabama basketball. And for Alabama basketball fans. So everybody buckle up. We'll be with you here.
Baby.
We'll be with you on round 2, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to it. Again, Alabama getting the win, advancing to round 2. They will play the winner of the UConn-Maryland game, which is coming up shortly. And, of course, we'll get the time and designation. Alabama will play on Monday. As to where that falls, we don't know time and or network yet, but certainly have updates there. You can also catch Nate Oates and the players' post-game press conference on our social channels. I'm sure they'll have some great things to say here post-game. Looking forward to that. And, Matt, thank you as always. And, guys, thanks for listening. We will catch up with you very soon. And before we go, our sponsor. We love our sponsor, Inline Lighting. Woo! This isn't Inline Lighting, but This is light. Hey, beam me up, Scotty. Yeah, we appreciate our sponsor. They stick around. They've been with us for a long time. We appreciate them. And we'll be back at it again. We'll see y'all on Monday.